This is lesson 1-5, adding and subtracting rational numbers. As we go through this lesson, you are free to decide if you want to do your work in fraction form or decimal form. But I strongly recommend that you be able to answer in both decimal and fraction form throughout this lesson. The first thing I want us to look at is one of the questions that was on today's bell ringer. It involved distance. By definition, distance is found by finding the difference between the two numbers, but finding the absolute value of that difference. In this question, you are being asked to find which expression is equivalent to the distance between -3 and -2 on a number line. There are two expressions that you need to be looking for. They both will have absolute value signs, and they both will include subtraction. Since we are looking for subtraction, you need to eliminate the two addition problems. First expression or your second expression. They will be in absolute value bars, and they will have a subtraction sign in the center. The first number we're working with is the number -3. So I'm going to put -3 at the front of the first expression, but at the back of the second expression. The other number we're working with is -12. So I'm going to put it at the back of the first and the front of the second. I know in past you're told that subtraction is not commutative, but in distance problems and only distance problems, it is commutative because of the absolute value bars. As we work this problem, on the first one, we have -3 minus -12. We leave change, or add the opposite, and we find out that we're doing -3 plus 12, which is 9. The absolute value of 9 is 9. If I come over to the other side and I do leave change, or add the opposite, -12 plus +3, I find out that the absolute value of -9 is my answer, and that is also 9. You're looking for the two correct answers. What we have up there in the multicolored, we can find the first one here, -3 minus -12, and here's the second one, -12 minus -3. Number 4 on page 34 is a distance question. We are going to find the distance between the top of the pole and the fish. Our first expression can be placed in absolute value bars and will have a subtraction sign, the same as our second expression. So remember, there's two possibilities of finding out distance. You are free to turn 8½ and 4½ into their decimals. Let's start with the 8½. We'll put it as 8 5/10. It's at the front of the first expression, or I'm going to put it at the back of the second expression. Now let's look at that 4½. That fish is underwater, so that 4½ needs to be negative. So I'm going to have -4 5/10, and I place it at the back, or I can place it to the front of the expression. Remember, distance is commutative. Let's answer the problems. 8.5 minus -4.5, will give us the absolute value of 13. The other expression, when we work it, -4.5 minus 8.5 gives us the absolute value of -13. If we find the absolute value of each of these, the answer is 13. Question 5. A shark began at 172.5 meters below sea level and then swam up 137.1 meters. Where is the shark's location now in relation to sea level? Remember, sea level is 0, so we're trying to figure out where the shark is. He first began at 172 5/10 below sea level. That means we have a -172.5. But then he swam up 137.1 meters. Well, swimming up is an increase, so adding 137.1. You can place this in your calculator, or you can subtract the numbers since they have different terms. Will our answer be positive or negative is based on the absolute value of the answer, of the numbers. And 172.5 negative has the higher absolute value, so our answer is going to be negative. In our calculator, you would also find out that the answer is negative 35.4. Number 6, negative 4.5 plus 4.5. As I said before, you are welcome to turn these into decimals. If you do, you get negative 12.5 plus 4.5. And this answer will give you negative 8. B, negative 0.35 minus negative 0.25. In your calculator, if you desire, is negative 0.1. Let's go to question 7. Complete the expression to find the difference. This question is guiding you through the process of changing your subtraction sign into an addition. And that's done by adding the opposite, or what we've done in previous lessons that we call leave, change, change, where our subtraction sign gets changed and the following number gets changed. 3.2, the minus changes to a plus, and the negative 5.7 changes to positive 5.7. Now, add our two numbers together, and we have 8 and 9/10. Question 8. Don't get scared with the fractions. If you notice these fractions, it's an adding problem, but they already have a common denominator. Fractions must have a common denominator in order to add or subtract them. So we're going to leave the common denominator alone, and we're going to focus in on the numerators. This problem, if you look, it turns it into a subtraction problem because I have a positive plus a negative. So we can rewrite this one as 12/13 minus 1/13. Keeping that common denominator, subtract your numerators. 12 minus 1, and our answer is 11/13. Let's go to question 10. The temperature in a town is 36.6 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and negative 12.6 degrees Fahrenheit at night. What is the temperature change from day to night? First part of this question we need to look at is that it is a change. Finding change involves subtraction. Now let's look at our temperatures. We started at 36.6 and we went to negative 12.6. So our temperature has a decrease. This is really important to remember on our answer. Let's set up our problem. From day to night, well, I have 36.6 degrees, and I want to subtract negative 12.6 degrees. Well, if I do this, I get an answer of 49.2. But remember what we just said. The temperature went down. We need to state that it was a 49.2 degree decrease. How else could you say that? Well, we could take our positive 49.2 and say negative 49.2 degrees. Both answers would be correct as long as you state that it's negative. Paying attention to the context of the question is vital to your work. Question 11. A, B, and C. If you notice, we have a fraction and a decimal. You need to get them into the same form. I'm going to go with decimal because I know that a half is 0.5. So instead of 50 and a half, I know that I have 50.5. 0.5. And I'm going to add negative 12.3. And when I place that in my calculator, I will get 38.2. Part B, negative 50.5. Well, let's change that into a decimal. Negative 50.5 plus negative 12.3. Signs are the same, so I'm going to keep my sign, and I'm going to add them together, and I'm going to get a negative 62.8. C, change it up again. Negative 50.5 plus 12.3, and I get a final answer of negative 38.2. Question 12. At the beginning of the day, the stock market goes up 30.5 points at the end of the day. The stock market goes down 120.4 points. What is the total change in the stock market from the beginning of the day to the end of the day? This is another change question. Let's look at our numbers. We went up 30.5, and then we went down 120.4. So I have 30.5 minus 120.4. If you don't want to work with fractions, work with decimals. 30.5 minus 120.25. We come up with an answer of negative 89.75. Remember what I said at the beginning of the lesson, though. Be ready to give decimal and fraction answers. 0.75 is 3/4. So negative 89 3/4. Question 13. A dolphin is swimming 18 feet below the surface of the ocean. There is a Coast Guard helicopter 75.5 feet above the surface of the water that is directly above the dolphin. What is the distance between the dolphin and the helicopter? We have another distance question. Let's remember, distance is found by finding the absolute value of the difference. So let's get our numbers together. We're going to find the absolute value of the difference. My first number is 18 feet below the surface of the ocean. That is negative 18. The second number that I have is 75.5 feet above the surface of the water. That is going to be positive. So negative 18 minus 75.5. Well, that gives me the absolute value of negative 93.5, which turns out to be 93.5 feet. But remember at the beginning, we also talked about how there are two expressions. So let's change this expression into its other. It will still have absolute value. It will still be subtraction, but we are going to flip-flop those two numbers. Let's bring the 75.5 to the front and the negative 18 to the back. When I do this, I have a 93.5 and find its absolute value, and I still have 93.5. The last one we're going to do on this video is question number 14. A bird flies from its nest to the bottom of the canyon. How far did the bird fly? I want to know how far. This is another distance question. So we're going to find the absolute value of the difference of the two numbers. Our first number is 528.1/5. You know what? That is equivalent to 528.2. Our second number is negative 89 3/5. That is equivalent to negative 89.6. We're going to do the math inside the absolute value bars, and we get 617.8. And the absolute value of that is 617.8. Or its fraction 617 4/5. What I would like for you to do now on page 36 is work on questions 15, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then you can check your answers on our Canvas page to see how you're doing. If you have any questions, come video conference with me. We'll work out the kinks and get us going on a better track. Have a good day.